Guys, we do record these sessions for guys who can't attend, but we do also ask if you guys can just keep your cameras on. It's really great to just see some faces, just really engage, because as we know from COVID, just talking to a wall is not seen as healthy mental states. So please keep your whole cameras on. But again, this is your community. Guys, please feel free to ask questions. There is a chat if you're new to the community. My name is Nick Benson. I'm the community sort of whole human being. So if you are new, please feel free to use the chat, say hi, kind of tell us where you're from. But we do ask, hey, if you want to ask some questions, please get involved, ask questions, put up your hand and you can discuss. So this isn't just a talky sort of session, because this is your meetup. So we are here to listen and work with you. Cool. Happy with that? Awesome. So on the agenda for today, we've got John Reilly has been kind enough to actually come and chat to us about open source, which is really cool. He's been involved in it for a number of years, and I'm really keen. We've been chatting for a while. He's really an interesting guy, and I think we're going to learn a lot from his adventures in the whole ecosystem itself. So he's got a talk entitled The Hitchhiker's Guide to Open Source. The answer is 42, just giving you guys the heads up on that one. And then we got Wayne, who'll be just chatting to us. Wayne's the head of the API. He's the big boss around here, and he will chat to us about what our plans are for the next few months and to get your views on what you think we should be working on for 2025. And then, of course, a very cool community or demo from Devin Pearson, who is our resident builder and tinker within the community. He's done something really cool around command lines. I think you'll be pretty keen on to check that one out. Guys, are we happy with the agenda? We cool with the agenda? Hey, anything you guys want to add? It's all good. Guys, just a quick one. We do have an Investec developer linked because LinkedIn page. We've just started it. If you guys can, please follow along with it. We'll be updating it with the really cool things what we're doing in the community, highlighting a few of you really cool community members, and just making it a space for devs to learn more about the Investec developer kind of the community itself. So yeah, happy. Cool. So you can look for it, Investec developer on LinkedIn. So to kick things off, John, I'm not going to talk too much about you. I think you'll explain who you are and where you come from and everything else. Here, over to you. You can share your screen. Thanks, man.
Cheers. I will. Yeah, just classic story. Just as I was preparing for this, I dug out my microphone and stopped working. So hoping that the Mac mic is going to hold up for me tonight. And yeah, fingers crossed. Damn it, didn't want to share the screen. I wanted to share just the tab. Sharing is always the hardest thing to do. So hopefully you can see, something on the screen that says the Hitchhiker's Guide to Open Source. I can see a thumbs up from Nick. Brilliant. That helps me. Thank you very much. So Nick asked me a while ago if I'd talk here, and I thought, yeah, that would be cool. And I think his initial brief was, could you do what top 10 things have you learned like working in open source? And that sounded like an interesting brief. But then I was like, I don't know if I've got 10. It's more like 3. So changed the name of the talk, and then as I was writing it, I came up with a few more as it goes. So it's now more around 6 or 7, I think. So yeah, the nature of this is to chat about open source. And those of you who are of an age may remember the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy computer game, which this is like ripped off of. And I just thought it'd be entertaining to sort of like take that and co-opt it as my cover, basically. So who am I? My name's John Reilly. I blog. I do a lot of open source, which is what we're going to talk about today. I do a bit of Blue Sky, and yeah, I've been blogging for about, I don't know, like 10 to 15 years thereabouts. I've been doing open source for about 10 years or so, and I've worked at Investec, by the way, for the last 7, and which is a cool place to work. Highly recommend it. And yeah, my purpose here isn't actually to talk about Investec today. It's to talk about open source, my experience in there, and how it might be interesting to you, and how to do it well and how to do it like less well, and just general like tips and tricks. And calling back to what Nick was saying earlier on, like please feel free to like stop me asking questions at any point in time. Like this session is meant for you, and if I'm giving you things that like puzzle you or something like that, then I encourage you to stop me and ask a question, and there'll be a thing for questions at the end anyways. And yeah, it kind of helps me to know that that I'm sharing something that is perhaps interesting to the room, hopefully, or I could tweak it, and I'm very good with that. So let's start off with what I've worked on. So loads of my open source stuff is in the web space, and more specifically in the TypeScript space. I really like TypeScript. I was like an early adopter, like way back when, and it's brought me like lots and lots of joy. And you probably, if you've built a website in the last however many years, you may well have found yourself using a technology called Webpack. And a Webpack is kind of like a bundler for websites. And when I started doing like more serious like web stuff, I started using this thing called Webpack that I discovered in like 2016, and it seemed kind of handy. But I also really liked TypeScript, and I wanted there to be like a thing that brought together like Webpack and TypeScript. I wanted to bundle TypeScript code. And TS Loader is that. I didn't invent it. Someone else did, but they burnt out, and I took over the project in 2016, and so I've been slinging it since then. It's quite popular. It gets about sort of 25 million downloads a month, and I'm actually kind of amazed by that, to be honest, because like most projects in the web space, in the JavaScript space, tend to sort of like rise and then fall like relatively quickly, and I would have imagined it to be like exactly the same for this thing here. But I think Webpack ended up playing like a big place in the Webpack in the web ecosystem for quite a long time, and so consequently, like TS Loader is still going strong. Ironically, I don't even use it that much myself on a day-to-day basis. I tend to use more like Vite and stuff, and I kind of expect that at some point the downloads are going to drop, but amazingly they haven't, like so far. Another thing that I've worked on is something you've probably heard of if you've been in the TypeScript ecosystem, and that's a project called Definitely Typed. And Definitely Typed is the thing that is, if you like, the glue between old school JavaScript, which is free of types, and TypeScript, the language. And it's a thing that needed to exist when TypeScript came into existence, and me and a whole bunch of others like worked on that, and I know it's one of the most active projects on GitHub in the world. I think last time I checked it was like 7th or 6th like most active project, and that's a function of just the size of the JavaScript and the TypeScript ecosystem. It's massive, and so like it does like a lot, and I used to do loads and loads in it. I actually do like not tons these days, because it's kind of an ecosystem that looks after itself. And like in one of those random things, I actually wrote like the history of Definitely Typed, which I called Definitely Typed the movie. It's not a movie, it's a blog post. Yeah, one of those like fun things to do. The third thing I thought I'd share that I've worked on is something called a Docusaurus, which comes out of Facebook or Meta, and it's a blogging platform or a documentation platform. And my interest in it came about because like I write a blog. I've written a blog for years. I wanted to re-platform at a point in time to something that was like Markdown flavored, and Docusaurus was that. And so I was like, oh, I can use this thing here perhaps. So I started using it when it was still in like alpha status, and it was already just like amazingly good, and I've contributed like the odd feature to it. I'm not sure if you were to make it out, but you can see here's a screenshot of one of the features that I contributed last year sometime. Yeah, and it powers the blog that I write. Probably write about sort of 1 or 2 posts a month, and have done for like quite a long time now. It's my long-term memory essentially. I'm very good at forgetting things quite quickly, so I write things down, and then when people ask me questions, I go, "Oh yeah, I've done that," and I can find reference to it, so I can make myself Googleable, which is a handy thing to do. But yeah, this is the background, if you like, of me and things that I've worked on. Now we're going to jump into tips for working in the open source ecosystem. So I have done tip 1, tip 2, but it doesn't get to 10. Sorry, Nick. I can tell he looks appalled. And yeah, so I think the first thing to tackle is imposter syndrome. And if you're a nice human being, and I'm sure you all are, you probably have like a healthy dose of this. You probably imagine that any contribution that you make will be not welcome and will be laughed out of town. And if you don't think that way, you're probably a psychopath. It's a sign that you're internally humble, which is a good thing. And so I kind of wanted to take a moment to recognize that whenever you're doing something, you're probably going to feel that the thing that you are bringing isn't worthwhile, and the other people that are already doing stuff like they're much better than you are, and they don't really need you. And actually, if you did something, it would probably spoil things. Like these are thoughts that will run around your head, and that's normal and that's fine. And I think I wanted to sort of level out a little bit, because I don't think I'm the best engineer in the world. I think I'm a good engineer, and I think I work hard at communicating, and I think that gets you like a long way. I'm curious, like I'm genuinely interested in stuff. I'm quite enthusiastic, and like these qualities going together, like they're kind of enough. And the reality is, by the way, that although like open source sometimes seems kind of shiny and like this exciting place, it can also be like a lonely place. And I say that as someone who's maintained things for many years, and oftentimes it's just kind of like you in a room. Even if your thing is used by like many people, you can discover that actually it's kind of just you. And so like I'm always delighted when someone like rocks up and helps me with something. Like to share some examples, like in my own experience, what happens is that people will turn up and they'll help you for a bit, and then life happens, or they lose, or their interest moves on, and they go on and do other things. And so like I've come to regard it as kind of like surfing the wave of other people's generosity. So like when someone turns up to a project that I work on, and they have something to offer, like I try to engage like in a friendly like fashion with them, but I kind of know that like however long like they're around, it's probably not going to be permanently. They're not here for keeps. They have lives and other things, and they probably came here because of something that was relevant to their I don't know, their hobby, or more likely their work. And yeah, you'll spend some time with them, maybe you'll do some stuff, but probably it's going to be like a transient, and that's okay. But yeah, you may well not be able to get past the or feel that you can't get past the imposter syndrome bit to actually contribute in the first place. And I wanted to recognize for the thing that it is, and still encourage you to push on through. It's hard, but it's yeah, that's what it is. So next, tip 2, you belong with me. The next thing is I guess kind of around finding a place to contribute. So oftentimes people have, I don't know, asked me like how I've ended up doing the stuff that I've ended up doing. And it's not because I sort of sat down with a grand plan to so I'm going to do some open source, and it's more like I've encountered things that are interesting to me, or things that I'm using and wanted them to like be slightly better or work slightly differently. And so like I was steered by the things that I was engaged in, and that was the thing that got me into the stuff that I'm doing. So the fact that I look after TS Loader is essentially because I had a need for it. Like in the job that I was doing in 2016, I needed TS Loader to build the application that I was building, and so I had a a healthy stake in it continuing to exist. With when it came to like Docusaurus, the reason that that I got involved with that is because like I had a blog. This thing like did most of the things that I wanted that my old blog platform did, but didn't do some. And I kind of wanted to like narrow the gap. And so I was like, well, I'd love it if this thing could be in there. I'd love it if this thing could happen, and I'd be happy to like have a go at like adding it, like you know. And you see at the bottom the picture from Moana, which is loved by my boys, and it is a cool film. You're welcome. Like you should only hang around in places where you feel welcomed. Like your life is only so long. There's only so many things you can do. Invest wisely, and if you don't feel welcome in a space, go somewhere else. Like it's a big wide world. Yeah, just like bear that in mind. Oh, yeah, one sort of like niche thing. I couldn't quite work out if this was the place to fit it in the talk, but I think it's probably as good as any. Um, because this is a big old wide world, and actually there'll probably be people on the call for whom like English isn't necessarily their first language. It's worth being aware of people that you're interacting with who don't speak English as a first language. And I say English because of the way that history has gone, like programming languages are like English orientated, software is kind of like English orientated as a language. And like that's kind of like just like an accident of the way things that grew out. But lots of the people out there who like come from like different language backgrounds and things, and their interactions with you might seem a little bit strange, and it's not because they're uh, don't know. It's not because they're bad people or anything like that. It's more like they're expressing themselves in a language that isn't necessarily their own, or one that they speak like natively, if you will. And like communication might be hard. And so like make allowances for someone who might be struggling. So someone spent actually a good amount of time in China trying to contribute like some test stuff to TSO, which I greatly appreciated it. And but yeah, but the communication with them was tricky. But yeah, it was just took a lot of like going backwards and forwards and like yeah, allowing leeway. Oh yeah, also watch out for where the projects are active. Like there's no point finding a project you're really excited about, rocking up, trying to do something, and discovering that actually everyone else is gone. You're just going to be disappointed then. Yeah. So a more practical one perhaps, docs and tests. So documentation and tests are easily the most neglected part of, well, not just not just software like in a work environment, but software and open source, like software like full stop. Like it's a lot more fun writing code than it is writing documentation and it is writing tests. Like I know that that's the thing that I want to do. I just want to get to the code. And as a consequence, this means that contributing documentation and tests is actually a great way to come and be part of a project, because oftentimes you'll find it's lacking, and people are really grateful if you do like a good job in terms of like making it better, because documentation in particular is the thing that makes it what do you call it, available to others. You can have the most technically brilliant project in the world, it's like hands down, like I applaud, but if it's unintelligible, if you can't work out how to use it, kind of pointless. And so if people out there uh, write documentation for you, or perhaps even better sometimes, if they make observations that the documentation that you got is just a little bit puzzling, and if it had this, then maybe it'd be better, it's highly welcomed. And like to that end, I should probably talk about my own first forays into OSS, and it was precisely documentation and tests. So these are actual links, which I won't open up right now because I think I'd derail my speaker thing. But yeah, my first contributions were documentation tweaks to Angular, not Angular like these days, but the original one, like way back when. So I think in 2012 or something, I found that there was I think there was a mistake in the router documentation. It was just like, or like it was missing an overload or something like that. So I submitted this tiny little docs PR to like add this to add in like this particular parameter in the Angular JS router, and I was so scared when I submitted that PR, and it was taken. It was just like it wasn't even a thing, and actually kind of amazingly, and this was all kudos to the original Angular team. They did a really good thing here. Like it happened like months later. They had a conference. I think it was Angular or ngconf in Paris or something, and they wanted to say thank you to all the people who contributed to Angular like over time. And I think it had been like 400 people in the last like year or something like that. And so they had like a ginormous screen on stage. So they brought up that ginormous screen, and they had all the people who contributed on there, including my little like avatar, even though I'd done like one line of a documentation thing for them, but actually meant like quite a lot to me. I was like, oh wow, like this tiny little thing that I did actually meant something to someone. Even I was validated by that, and it made me very happy, and definitely gave me a little bit of confidence, I think. And okay, well that went all right. I can do another thing. And similarly, my second contribution, I think, was jQuery validation, which the old school amongst us will remember that, like, way back when the web started to get when JavaScript started to get like serious, like jQuery ruled everything. And if you're building form validation, and everyone was building form validation, then you'd probably use this thing called jQuery validation, which was built by a German dude called Jorn Zappa. And again, I found I can't even remember the nature of that one. It was, again, some kind of like docs issue, which I remedied, and yeah, submitted and it fixed. I think that one was something on the website, and either way, it was taken, and I was like, oh, pleased. And type definitions, you could argue, is kind of a documentation thing, like as well. And yeah, I got into that in a similar thing as well. All of these were in some way driven by like work stuff that I was doing, and also like interests that I had. But yeah, it was a low stress contribution, and I was delighted by how much it was welcome. So if you're like thinking about doing something like this, then taking a moment and using like documentation and tests as a way to get involved is a great shout. It's always appreciated. So written communication. That communication is wildly important for everything, and like when I'm working with people, I will, I'll write code, I'll put up a pull request, and I'll put some work into making sure that it's intelligible and all that kind of thing. But I have the privilege of being able to like just jump on a call with people generally, like we're on a call together now, right? I can ring up whoever it is, and we can talk through like what's been done, and that's just like an easier thing to do. When you're doing open source, you're like, it's kind of like you're in a global world, but everyone's communicating just through the written word. And that's kind of dangerous sometimes, in the sense that it's very easy to come off abrasive without meaning to, or something like that. And I'm sure I still do, by the way. But like I put a lot of effort into trying to sound friendly and welcoming, and yeah, you'll see in my online interactions, I certainly overuse like emoji and that kind of thing. And the purpose there is that like I'd rather people thought I was a bit silly for overusing like emoji, rather than thinking I was a bit nasty. So I put like a lot of effort into writing in my interactions, and I try and put the same energy into reading as well. It's funny actually, as I'm doing this right now, and it's like in the back of my mind, and I'm like, I'm sure I don't always like succeed at that, but this is I'm definitely telling you my aspirations of what I'm trying to do. I'm certain I fail at it like a good amount, but that's what I'm trying to do. And yeah, I guess I'd encourage that as like a general practice. Like, assume good intent from the people that you're dealing with, because they're probably nice people, they're probably trying to do good things, and yeah, be aware that like written communication is harder work than verbal communication. Like it's much easier, much nicer to be able to have like a call with someone, or even better, an in-person like interaction. But if you're doing open source, you're probably doing it online. This is what you've got. You must do something in that sphere. So you can't push water uphill, and what I mean by that is your ideas, the things that are on your mind to contribute to something. I mean, it's possible they may not align with what the maintainers of that project want to do, and that's okay. That's okay. And like, so I've got an example. Again, I'm not going to click on these links, but I just wanted to like share two examples. So I've got an example there of a proposal that I made that was welcomed and ended up landing, and another one that didn't. And over the course of the issue or the pull request, there's discussion, there's back and forth, and sometimes it's like, oh yeah, this is your idea is like great, but I don't necessarily like the execution. Could you do it differently? And so cool. I think that's what I did on the sitemap thing. Seb, the guy who maintains that, he's quite like exacting about what he likes, and fair enough. And by the way, Docusaurus is a very well-run project. And yeah, there was another thing that I suggested that like didn't land, and yeah, there was some back and forth, and like I could kind of see where it was coming from. Actually, yeah, it was. I was disappointed, but like it doesn't matter. The thing to know is that just because you want something, It doesn't mean you necessarily get to have it. And when you're doing any kind of collaborative activity, like collaboration is actually like tricky. It's hard. This is why it takes so long for, I don't know, countries to agree like deals and all that kind of stuff, because it just takes like a very, very long time to get people aligned, or aligned enough that they can go forwards in some kind of direction. And so I'd say don't turn up to an open source project expecting to like bend to your will, because it won't necessarily. But turn up maybe with the expectation that you can offer something and see where it goes. Don't be too sunk on the idea, because it may not land. But also, no, I have bad ideas. I've definitely proposed at least one very bad idea to Docusaurus, which they turned down, and I'm glad they did. It would have been a worse it would have been a worse application if they'd taken it. But at the time, I was like, oh, why would they take that idea? It's a brilliant idea. It wasn't a brilliant idea. You can get too excited about things. Perspective is everything. The way that you look at what you're doing genuinely affects how the impact that it has on you. So the time that you are considering offering to open source is a gift. It's a gift that you're offering to give. You don't have to do it for anybody. I guess, what am I trying to say here? I've definitely had times when I've been doing open source where I felt a bit overwhelmed by it. Like certainly I've been struggling like with it, and you're kind of aware sometimes that people depend upon the thing that you're building, and it just can feel a bit like a heavy load. And that's an unfortunate perspective to have, and I regret it when I take that on board, because the reality is that everything that you do it's down to your choice. Like we live in a slightly topsy-turvy world in a way, in a sense that lots and lots of companies, including my own, are building software on top of open source, building these dependencies on top of like free software maintained by generous human beings, and the onus is not on those human beings to do that job. They're not being paid for it by and large. I've made very little money out of open source. The fact I've made any at all is kind of a miracle. And every now and then, people can be quite nasty. So like I'm trying to think of the particular project. Can't remember what it is. Either way, one of the dependencies of TS Loader recently got randomly flagged by GitHub Advanced Security or a tool like that, Renovate, and this was like flashing up on dashboards all throughout the world, and it turned out to be like a false positive, and but all around the world, developers were opening issues on this guy's like project saying, hey, fix this thing. And like no one out there is like paying this dude for it. Like they're just like they've got this like this entitled like viewpoint that like he should do this thing for them, and the tool wasn't even right. Like it was wrong. It was like it was reporting a thing that, you know, yeah, rather frustrating. It was a false positive. It led to a lot of noise and a lot of antagonism. There was just some very nasty threads on GitHub, and it's a kind of bullying really. So like trying to remember that this is the thing that you're doing for other people, and no matter what is coming across, sometimes like it's a gift to give. It's not a thing that you're obligated to do, and yeah, your mental health like really matters. Sometimes you're going to be up. Well, actually, I'll speak for my own experience. Sometimes I'm up. Sometimes I'm less up. I'm down, and as I get older, I'm more aware of that, I think, and but it can be tricky to be aware of it. But I think trying to optimize for your own like happiness and well-being, and for those around you is really important, because it would kind of suck if like you're really bummed out because something's not going quite how you wanted it to, and your family like get the repercussions of like sad John or sad Nick or whatever. That's not the way that it ought to be. The perspective is this is a gift that you're giving, and it's your choice to give it, and you don't have to. And yeah, that's the way to go. Just get going. So this is a picture of me, young me, when I was I think I would have been like 21 there or something, And I'm showing you this picture because I took a long time to get started. I'm sure there's plenty of people on the call who are like way younger than I am, but I was aware that open source was a thing, but like it took me like forever to sort of get to the point of actually doing something. And like it took me literally this long. This is a picture of me at the birth of my first boy Ben, the guy who had the blender on downstairs earlier on, and I'm showing you that because it so happens that but this was when I kind of like started doing open source for, I can't really tell you why, but that just so happens to be like the point at which I started actually, doing things. But like many years had passed before I got to that point there, right? And I would have actually liked to have started doing things before that, but like a certain amount of like nervousness, caution, all that kind of thing, like held me back. And I would encourage you to try and, if you can, get past that, whilst recognizing it's difficult. It's really worth doing that. And I think my final thing is enjoy yourself. Like this is a thing you should do because it's kind of fun. It's kind of like doing puzzles is kind of like how I characterize it, or playing with Lego. Be welcoming and kind to the people around you. Be the kind of person that you would like to interact with. Don't waste your time. Yeah. And yeah, that's kind of the end of my talk. If you have any questions, like I will happily take them.
Awesome. John, thank you very much. That was really awesome. We'll just see if anyone has some things that they'd like to ask. But yeah, from my side, I've been wondering about, because you spend a lot of time in open source. Have you ever found like you've learned stuff from the other people that you've been working with across the board? Has it affected you in a growth point of view or more?
Oh yeah,
career
definitely,
point of view?
That's
Yeah.
a great question. So yeah, like yeah, like I'm always aware that like, well, software is just like such a constantly like evolving field. There's always things that are happening. There's always things that are appearing. And a thing that I've got out of doing this is working with people who are far more talented than I am, who've like taught me things like through doing them. And yeah, just I don't know, like different approaches to like how to approach something, or parts of a language that I didn't know existed, or tools that I didn't know existed. Like, oh, have you considered using like this thing there, like like buns? So there's a thing that you can use, like it's a way to like run like JavaScript like really fast. Or if you use this testing tool, this is really nice. Or I don't know, CLI stuff. Yeah, there's always like things that people share. Right. Here's the thing. Like, way back when I was first like starting I'd heard there was this thing called Node.js. I didn't, and I sort of knew that it was like JavaScript on the server, and I didn't know what npm was, and like it was, oh, this would be like 2011 or something like that. And I was just like trying to work out how these things, maybe even before that, I was trying to work out like how this thing like worked and stuff. And I found a package JSON file, and I was like, what's that? Okay, this is like a list of the things that you need to run the software, right? And I was like, I downloaded all of these things onto all these files on my machine. I was like, and then I sat there and did like, I typed in npm install for every single package in the package JSON, because I thought that's what you did. Like I didn't think that like if you just typed npm install, it would install the things in the pack. I thought that it was listed. I thought it was a list of instructions that you had to follow. And I just mentioned this in passing in an online chat with somebody, and they're like, oh, that's you can just type npm install. So, oh, can you? Ah. So yeah, so you definitely, you can learn things that are sort of detailed and complicated, and you can learn things that are perhaps in reflection quite simple.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, man. If anyone else has any sort of things to ask, anything you want to know about open sourcing or working on open source projects, John's available. He's also in the chat if you want to, guys, if you just want to ask there, that's also cool. I think one last one from my side, John, where do you find the time? If you're working and open sourcing, how do you balance that sort of stuff?
Yeah, good question. And the answer actually isn't always great, which is that I'm not the world's best sleeper. And so I'll often wake up early in the morning. And I mentioned earlier on that these are the dark times for us, right? So right now the sun rises at about 8 o'clock in the morning, and it sets about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So we have a lot of dark time. And so you can kind of get like just like yeah, you can kind of get just fiddle around with stuff then, and that's a lot of what I do. And I don't know, I feel like people think I do more than I actually do. I have a bias to automation, which everyone should have, because like I'm lazy, like we should be lazy. And like automation means that you you can actually look quite productive whilst doing less than you might imagine. So let's say I'm doing a new version of like TS Loader. Like all I have to do is like cut the code, make sure the tests pass, and then run the pipeline, and it's going to deploy, and I don't have to think about it. Like I'm not sitting there and manually cutting a release. Like I've automated that bit. And so yeah, so be lazy and look productive. That's my advice.
That's really good advice. Thanks, man. I'll remember that when I'm in PD reviews with Wayne. So this, yeah. Cool. John, thank you very much for your time, and really awesome. And hopefully we'll see more of you around. Hopefully.
Sorry, Nick, can I slip in one question?
Please. Yeah.
Thanks for the talk, John. So just a question, in a world of LLMs, it's fantastic how far people can come. I've had a few instances where, for example, receiving contributions from users who's obviously not technically inclined. Don't mean to say that in a bad way. It's just they are obviously an end user or business user. They know their domain well, and they really want to add this feature. And ChatGPT gave them this piece of code after reading the repository, and they opened the PR. So
sure.
I mean, how do you handle this? On the one hand, you want to be kind and keep the momentum going and build on the initiative, but on the other hand, they won't be able to improve the code or make it mergeable, and I'd have to actually then double down and spend time to merge that feature. Some thoughts on that maybe.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting point actually, because AI kind of has made the like it's lowered the barriers of entry for contribution, which is kind of cool. But yeah, you're right that it also presents like situations that wouldn't have like come up before necessarily. And I think I don't think it's like a hard and fast rule. I think ultimately like it's a judgment call in each case. Like there's a couple of things to consider in there, like how valuable is the feature that they're suggesting. If it's something that's like, oh, this is a great idea, we should do this, then you're probably like motivated to maybe like join in and like have a go and see if you can like help get over the finish line. But I guess the flip side is actually like you must have like a budget for this, right? If you only have so much time in your life, and if you're like, this is an amazing thing, but I'm sorry, this is going to take me like X amount of days or hours to do, and like I've got a lot going on. I think it's fine to say, look, I really like this, and I'd love you to be able to like to take it further, but I don't have the time to do all of that. And I've definitely said like no to people like online, and just, I think it's fine to be nice to people. Say, look, this would take me like loads of time, and I'm not willing to. I don't have all that spare time. I've got responsibilities. I've got family. I've got kids. I've got things that I want to do. And but I guess if you can encourage them, that's a good thing. The thing that's in the back of mind is actually like slightly tangential to what you're asking, which is so I've used AI to write code because that's quite good at that, and sometimes not sometimes. Well, this is the rubbish thing about AI. It gets loads of stuff wrong, right? It's like someone in sales, like wildly confident and often wrong. With apologies to anyone who works in sales. and see, I've written like blog posts even on in the past where I've which I'll use like AI to build the thing, discover like data like this is actually not totally wrong. That's the point. It's like 80% right but like 20% wrong, and you have to like put the effort in to get you that last 20%. And sometimes that effort's actually sizable. And but yeah, I'd say it's a judgment call, and you must make the judgment each time, but I guess just try and be nice about it is kind of my thinking. Does that kind of like answer your question?
Yeah, definitely, thanks. Well then, there I have it, John Reilly and my therapist saying learn to say no, so I'll work on that.
Yeah, it's fine to say no. It's entirely appropriate. Owner, is that you with the hand up?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Hello,
Firstly, thanks for the great chat.
pleasure, man.
Question. You kind of in your talk spoke a little bit on documentation, and I was just curious because not only do you document stuff, but you've also got a blog and those sorts of things. But that is a big thing that developers generally tend to not do well, if at all. And so, like, from your perspective, how do you think about sort of documentation, and how should we be thinking about it? I mean, it's so easy to get lost in a problem. You write the code, you solve it in some particular way, and you forget about it. And then 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line, it's someone else's problem, and they have no idea what you've done. So how should we be thinking about this, in the same way that you do?
Yeah, my rule of thumb is write little, but write enough. Like you should, like ideally in 6 months' time, when you come back to a thing, there should be enough there that tells you like enough about a thing for you to be able to like understand it and maintain it. But it shouldn't be like this overwhelming like reams of stuff, because if your idea of like that being the thing that was necessary, you probably wouldn't write it. And if you did write it, like you'd be maybe like not inclined to maintain it. Like anytime you're writing documentation, like it's potentially stale immediately. So if you can make it as pithy as possible, that's good. Like I was gonna tests documentation sometimes, maybe not always. I think write little, write enough, and try to be disciplined enough to maintain documentation over time or delete it if you think it's stale. Like there's nothing worse than when you've got like a comment sat next to like to a lump of code, say, and you know that it's totally like doesn't apply, or just like but it's you just kind of like left it there, it's stale, Yeah. Does that answer your question, Ona?
Enough, like it says in there.
Good man.
Yeah, cool. And look out for John's blog post on all of this stuff. So thanks, John. Thank you again. It was very cool,
Pleasure,
man. Thank you, man.
Cheers.
And moving along, Wayne's going to chat to us quickly about the stuff that we have planned from the whole API team for this year, for the half year. Wayne, you good, man?
Am I green on your screen too? Huh?
Yes, you're a little bit green. I thought it was just, I don't know.
So weird. But anyway, I tried different filters and things. It's just I look more alien. So I put on the background. It's like a foreign planet, and that makes sense now why I'm green.
Okay. Oh yeah, no, perfectly. Yeah,
okay.
We're out of space launching. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, got it.
Is there one slide or two slides? Just I couldn't figure out at the end if we merged it. Just
okay, so there's one slide and then just
one
questions.
Slide. Okay, no, that's good. Okay. Yeah. So welcome back, everybody, to 2025. Year's kicked off with a bang. I thought let's just quickly recap what we said we'll do last year, just so you can have some continuity around us saying we're going to launch stuff and what we actually did. So virtual cards for business banking. I think it went in. It's not in the APIs yet, but the functionality is available as far as I understand. FinZap, for the people that are new, that's a tool that basically lets you do Sage and Xero integration. So it synchronizes your bank account to Sage or Xero. It has been launched to business banking for a long time. We are now launching it to private bank clients. So people with a smaller business can now also do Sage and Xero integration. You don't need to be like the mid-sized corporate to do business banking. IP whitelisting. So we did that. Well, we're in the process of rolling it out. It's in a beta still. So IP whitelisting on API credential sets. This has been asked by some people. They aren't happy with just client ID and secret. They want to like add something else in. So we've added that you could IP whitelist your APIs now. So when you get your credentials, you can also put a IP address in there. And then the last quarter of 2024, there was a lot of movement around our Forex APIs. We actually have amazing Forex APIs. They allow you to submit stuff, submit your BOP documentation, exchange control, all that stuff can basically be done through APIs. And there's been a lot of interest in the intermediary and the outsource market around using those APIs. So that's quite exciting. Okay, any questions around what we said last time? Okay. So I'm sure for the last 5 years we've been saying this, but everybody wants to do payments. So we're still doing payments. And it takes many, many years to do payments, it seems. So, but we'll keep on doing it until we get it right. So we have launched some APIs. We're about to launch a more comprehensive set in the business banking space. It won't be there for private clients. We have beneficiary payments and transfers if you want to play around there. I doubt we'll have it there soon, just from a priority point of view. Then host-to-host infrastructure. So we've had some clients that say they love APIs, but for now, can we just give them what they have with other banks? So we're going through a process where we're actually implementing what other banks call host-to-host, but a very small version of it. Our primary channel for Investec for integration is still API. This is just a supplementary channel in case you like have a system that's offline or like some old formats. This allows you to transform it into our format and then send us data. So it's a nice interoperability layer we're adding on top of it as well. Schedule payments for APIs. No, that's once I do payments, then I'll do schedule payments, Peter.
Sure, but I'm just putting it on the list there.
Yeah, no, that's why you must add it on the list. I will definitely add it on there. I might be stupid and it might go live with payments. Who knows? You never know. Okay. Where was I? Oh, spreadsheet banking. So we've demoed spreadsheet banking here in the community a couple of times. What it basically is, it's a plugin into Excel. You install it into Excel, do a OAuth flow, and then basically that spreadsheet is connected to your bank account, and then you don't have to log into online banking. You can just go hit refresh, and it downloads transaction history into an Excel spreadsheet. It's obviously very popular because every single business unit we have has found uses for it. It's like incredibly useful from an operations point of view, because normally when you interact with a bank, it's like log into the website, do stuff, and that's quite painful. This thing is actually quite useful to quickly get your transactions in, and we have companies that are releasing goods on it based on the spreadsheet and stuff. So it's very interesting how creative people can get in these things, but like there's a lot of interest on spreadsheet banking all over the place. Then PaySharp. I put this one on, but it's not really confirmed, and I can't give you a date. But for those that don't know, and all our UK colleagues here, that's basically an instant payment mechanism up to 4,000 Rand. So if you have the guy's cell phone number, you can say, I want to pay Nick for 2,000 Rand, and through the API, it will, no, you're not getting a salary, was an example. So that 2,000 will be transferred almost instantly, which is might be new. It might be regular in the UK, but in South Africa, payments have always been quite delayed. We're used to like send money, wait 2 days, see if the payment came in. This stuff is instant, but there's a limit on. So I think it's currently 4,000 Rand, if I'm not mistaken. So we're trying to get that in because it's not so risky like big payments. Okay, moving on. More low code and budget templates. So we're on this drive to say, how do we enable non-developers to also leverage programmable banking and access all the cool stuff we're doing? So we're constantly looking at like low-code solutions and ways to integrate more features into like spreadsheet banking, like a budget template. So if you download the spreadsheet, it will still run and figure out categorization, but you can like almost have a budget pulling live transactions out of Investec Online, which will be quite cool. I think it's every hackathon we've ever done, people have built a budgeting app. So it must be popular and it must be a thing. Okay. And then we've had some, I'm sure if you used the API before in private bank, there's no unique ID on that thing. It's like a request we put in 5 years ago to get something done. It's never been done. This year we're going at it hardcore again. This time it's really going to happen, where we add unique IDs to the results coming out of the APIs. And there's a couple of other little small things we want to tweak and just make better based on feedback from the community and all the people using the APIs. Like you really get good feedback when people actually are using your stuff, and then we can figure out what you've been doing wrong. And then FinZap launched to private bank. Didn't I say that? Oh yeah, that was on the left there. I duplicated it, but it's still launching to private banks. That's a good thing. So if I had to summarize just for the year, the beginning is going to be a lot about payment infrastructure and getting payments to a state where we can do it for business banking, but as you know, we always leverage like what we do in business bank. We try and do the same for private banks. So it's exciting stuff from a impact point of view. It's not shiny toys, but it's a very powerful toys to be able to, like, if you could make a payment via API, it would be really cool. Okay, any questions?
The
I
word,
must answer these.
well,
This is a interrogation. Wait.
sorry, it's interrogation. Yes, you
Payments
will
for
answer.
payments for CCM, it's not on the cards yet. There's some they discussing if they should be doing that. So it's not prioritized yet. It's not on any radar to do anything for payments for CCM. So the people that don't know, CCM is the corporate cash manager. It's basically a facility that lets you deposit money in there in like almost a money market type of thing. So if you buy a house and you give your lawyer the money for the house, the deposit, they put it in one of these accounts, like a cash management account, and that sits there and generates income. So it's more of an intermediary business almost in South Africa. And yeah, so they have no immediate need to do payments there. Next. I hope that answered everybody. Broke your heart. Shh.
I think the next one is
slide.
From the
I'm
next one
still
is
seeing the previous slide. Oh, there.
moved. Yeah, there you go. From Andre, he had a question around the cap for the limitations.
I don't actually know where that limit is. I'm not aware of a 20,000 limit. There was one a while back when we first launched, but I think it's been taken out. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe if you can just send us more details or like what call you did in the API, we can have a look. Maybe it's snuck back in there.
Sure.
But there shouldn't be a limit on there.
Yeah, should be. And then how can an Investec API be used to simplify my tax returns? Well, that's a bigger thing there.
That
But I'll
sounds
follow
big.
that. Yeah.
I can tell you how, like, I've got a special needs daughter, and every year I have to go into transaction history and look at all the transactions that, like, I have to pay the nanny and the doctors, and it becomes quite a pain to go into Investec online and like search and stuff like that. So, my thought on that was I could just call the API, get the transactions, figure out what the things are, and build myself a little tax pack I can just hand over to my tax consultant instead of having to like highlight on. Last year, I printed out 13 months worth of statements. The pack of paper was like that big. And then I took a highlighter and I had to highlight line by line, everyone. I'm sure we could optimize that with API.
I'm sure we could. Russell, you got a question, mate?
Yeah, I've also got a potential answer to that last question. So my application automatically categorizes the majority of the transactions that come in automatically, leaving only the ones that it is unaware of to be manually categorized. And what I do is one of my flags for those categories is this necessary for my tax return? So, for instance, if you're renting a unit, each of the expenses related to that unit and the rental income from that unit, for instance, would have this flag on them. And then when I do my tax return at the end of the year, I use that specific flag to basically filter out the elements that I need for to actually do the tax return.
It's exactly like, is that an open source project, Russell, or is it your own project?
No, just my own one. My management of my own tax affairs and my own bank account.
Okay.
But that has actually worked quite well for me, and it's not complex. It's just a simple flag. Is this particular category specific to taxation? And then when I get to doing my tax return, I filter. It ends up on an Excel spreadsheet, and I filter that by that flag, and that just helps me to pick them all up.
Okay, very cool.
Very cool. Guys, any suggestions that you think that we should be working on for this year, or at least for the next 6 months? Anything? Do you guys agree with it? You don't agree with it? Please let us know. If there's something that you really think that we should be actually all focusing on, please let us know. The whole team is here. Wayne, Barnard, Ernst, Ruben, all of the guys are here. So yeah, if there's anything, please feel free to use the chat, put up your hand. Wayne is here to listen and tell us to prioritize accordingly.
The green screen guy. I'm the opposite of a green screen.
Correct.
I should be invisible.
Correct. Yeah. It should actually be. Cool. Peter, you got a question, man?
Yes, if I can just make a case for the scheduled API payments to Wayne and the team. So I use scheduled payments rather than debit orders, signing debit orders and things, just so that I have a little bit more control. I can switch off a scheduled payment much easier than trying to cancel a debit order. But if I have a variable amount, for example, maybe electricity or something that changes on a monthly basis, I would love to be able to go in via an API and just say, tweak this date to be plus 1 day, or change the amount to be, 100 Rand less, because that's what the invoices come through. So I would love to see that functionality added, if that is at all possible.
It is the very valuable functionality, because I know in the UK they actually have the same issue where because they don't have debit orders, they needed variable amount recurring payments.
Yeah.
And they've sort of, John, maybe you know more, but they've sort of regulated that you must allow it in the bank. So hopefully we'll get there soon. Just on the payments, like when we do payments, it might just be a parameter to say, is this a now payment or a future one? So like, I'm not too close to the detail.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm saying maybe if you're lucky, it's in there.
Yeah, but it's different from a future dated payment. It is a scheduled payment that is set up to go off every single month, but I want to be able to edit it via the API.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll add it to my list.
Thank you,
Wayne. To your list that you give us. I'm kidding.
Cool. Guys, thank you very much. Wayne, thank you very much. If there's anything...
Sorry, John, did you want to say something?
Oh, sorry, John.
Let me give him a chance.
Sorry, me, John.
Yeah.
Never mind.
No.
I thought you went off mute at some point. That's fine.
No.
Okay. Go next.
Cool. Guys, thanks. Wayne's in the chat. The whole team is here, so please feel free to ask there. Next up, we got Devin, our resident community border tinkerer, sharer guy who helps the community out with a lot of stuff. He helps the team out with a lot of stuff, and he's been working on something that he's really excited about, that he's shown us that we're really excited about. And yeah, so Dev, you want to take it away, man?
Cool, thanks, Nick. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfectly. Yeah.
Would you mind sharing those slides again? It's probably easier than me sharing.
Yours. No problem. Let me do that quick. Cool. Can you see?
Cool.
Yeah.
I can see.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so I just wanted to say welcome everyone to the meetup, and I decided to build what I thought was a really cool tool. And in the spirit of open source and everything for the community, I've tried to build, things that I believe I could use and other people could use. And one of these items was this programmable banking CLI. So I know that many of you have probably tried out the web IDE for uploading code and editing that code in your card. And I found that to be quite cumbersome. I love the concept of being able to write code and put it onto the card, but with the web IDE, you've got to log in. It takes about 5 or 6 steps, to get there, and it's quite hard to work with. And so what I decided to do was just sort of try and build a tool that you could use in your normal workflow and make it really, really simple to upload code or deploy code to your card. And so what I did was using TypeScript, Node, and another little package called Yargs, and the card API, I built out a tool that would solve this problem that I had. Next slide there, Nick, if I've got control. Cool. Well, so before I just go into the live demo, I wanted to just give a bit of history. So a lot of the stuff that I've been doing for the community, like a lot of the emulators I built, and I built like this, emulator for the card code. And originally I put it in as like a bit of a templating engine. So there was like a couple of code snippets in there, and you could run it against the engine and you could see how the code ran. But it was a bit cumbersome to use. Like you weren't able to really put your own code into your own repo and use it. So it was a bit janky. And yeah, I like working locally. And so this tool, I made sure that I could test my code locally, and then usually I'd then have to copy it, and put it into the IDE. So what I did then is I looked at other tools that do similar stuff. So like there's a tool from Cloudflare called Wrangler, and you can deploy code to a Lambda function there, as well as Azure's got this and AWS. So I looked at those and I looked at like how do they deploy their code, and I thought, well, let me see if I can do the same thing. And yeah, so let me just share the demo with you. Let's see, let's get there. Just see, is this one? Cool. Can everyone see my IDE there? Cool. Thanks, Nick. Okay, cool. So just to give this little context, this isn't the repo with the little tool. This is a template that I built on GitHub for people to use to write code. And so what I've done here is that this is a basic template that there's a bit of extra files in here, but you would have your main.js. So very much the same as what you would see on the IDE. And you would have your environmental variables file, and I've done it a bit differently here. I've gone more back to standard, like you have an .env, so you won't commit that into your repo. But with this is if you wanted to say get like your cards in this repo here, like if I go npx IPB fetch cards, that will go and query the API, fetch the cards, and then pull back all my cards from Investec. And so if I wanted to say push card, deploy code up to this card here, I would be npx IPB, and then I would do deploy. And I would say this card there, and I want to give it main.js, and I want the env to be prod. And so with that, that will take my main.js file and my environment, and it will deploy the environment out, and then it will deploy my code. And so that code is now up on my card, and it's live. And so that just makes life, a lot easier than what we've had before. You can now have this in your projects, and so you could take this template, go and use it for your projects currently, use GitHub, and commit your code that you've been putting on your card. Instead of, copying it from wherever, you're now able to sort of in your normal workflow, be able to work with these. And I took it a little bit further, is that this has now got like a credentials. So one can actually go anywhere. You can install it. I just want to show you there. So like you can install this globally, and then you can use this command anywhere. So if I was to just cd out of this repo there, and I was to do IPB fetch cards, it's once my what's that, 223.091. I probably have an older version on here, but what it is the demo gods weren't happy with me there. But basically what you've got is you can install this globally, and like Wrangler or any of the tools, if you want to just push a file or anything that you've got, or pull logs in a repo that doesn't have this package installed, you can have it globally, and it's a tool that you can run. Yeah, there is some other hidden features behind it, like you can fetch your ENVs down. You can also, let's just see back into that card code. Where am I? Oh, there we go. Yeah. So with this as well, we can look at, I've also got the emulator that are built in here. So one can, let's just see if I've got a run command there. See, so there you can see you can get instant results in terms of taking your code, emulating it. The emulator is pretty much as close as I can get it to production, and so you can run your code locally at sort of hyper speed compared to what you get on the IDE. All the stuff is all got types for it, and it really it's one-to-one in terms of the responses back that you get from the API. So you can run that all locally, and test out that experience. The other one as well is like people obviously often you want, there's the logs. So one can also can fetch those logs. And then that would pull down your log files for you, so you can fetch them. So that's the main functionality I believe that people would use within this. You can fetch your logs, pull all of that information that you need down. So it covers everything that you need from what was in the IDE. You can now do it natively in that. And yeah, this is what I believe will hopefully make people's life a lot easier in terms of generating card code. Then in terms of the rest of the slides, sorry, Nick. There we go. Cool. Yeah, so I mean, just giving you the demo, some of the stuff that I had problems with was probably the first one I'd say was time. I was told that I had less than 24 hours to show a working, nice, clean version of this. So like credential storage and everything was probably like 11 or 12 last night. I was whacking that together to make it work. And then, I think it was really funny is like the challenge that I had with this is like what makes a command that makes sense, like my wording versus somebody else's, or a day later I can't remember what the command was, and then I obviously thought that was probably not the right word to use if I can't remember it. So that was some of the challenges I've had, and I'm hoping I can get a lot of community feedback on the tool. It's still early days, like John was saying earlier. There's a lot of space for documentation, a lot of space for testing. Here's your chance to get on the open source bandwagon. And some of the learnings using Yargs. Yargs is so to get the CLI, all of the commands to work, Yargs is like a library that just makes that easier. So it was quite cool to use that. And then this is like the first time I've ever built like a global node app, one that you could run globally, and I always thought one had to do it in more of a systems programming language to get all that features, but you can get it in little old Node. So that was the challenges and learnings. And then next steps.
Oh, sorry, I think there was some questions from Russell.
Oh, cool.
And then from Andre. Yeah.
Let me check. So I have
No
to.
question from him.
Oh, there wasn't a question. Sorry, Matt. Was there a question from Andre then? Okay. So there must have just been a reaction thing. Sorry, Matt. Apologies.
So I did have a question. Sorry, when you manage to get it to work globally, is it something that you can sort of use in some sort of CI/CD pipeline, like when so that there isn't like a GUI when you're deploying your application, supporting APIs and this command line tool, so that it sort of integrates into my DevOps?
Yes, that was actually something I was going to mention in the next steps. So one of the reasons that I wanted this tool as well is to like flesh out a lot of the actions and the tools one would want to use. And as you say, is like deploying in a pipeline, CI/CD, being able to install that app in. So currently, like you can use credentials from environmental files, credential files, or I haven't put the API keys and stuff in line, but you can do credentials and you can do environmental variables. So it is in a space that it can be used for that. And that's one of the next steps is once this is mature enough, I will be putting out a deploy pipeline and likely also a test one so that you can simulate on your way to production. And so if you wanted to use it in a test harness, you could largely use the simulator that's built in it, and so that you could test your card code before it deploys. And so those two steps is one of the next phases that I want to do with this. And that's largely like some of the inspiration of me doing these tools was to get that last piece sorted. And so yeah, some of those other next steps is to make sure I like update those readmes. There's a little bit more error handling that I need, so currently there's sort of a bit of a global try catch in each of them where it will just dump the message. So there's a lot there that one can do to just make that a lot better, and consistency across the calls. And so as I'm doing the different versions, I'm landing up changing the naming and how the flags work and stuff. And so there's a smorgasbord of different ways of using each function. So that will be sorted out. And then I was working on a ES build so that you can use like TypeScript, do all your stuff there. There was somebody in the community that's actually done like a really cool little ES build command, and I might put that into one of the templates. So you'll be able to, have in your source file, you have all your files, and it will then output the one file that will then be deployed by this app. And so you'll get some bundling, sort of like what Wrangler does. I'm going to sort of try and see if I can move towards that idea. And then I haven't tested on Windows. I traditionally like to work on Mac, but yeah, I'll give this a go.
That's all you mentioned just now, Devin. Is that TS up?
Sorry?
That's all you mentioned just now, Devin. Is that TS up?
For which?
For the bundling, the using ES build, because I use TS up for compilation. I think it's built on ES build, but I'm not sure. I wonder if it was the same thing that you were using.
No. So I was just showing with ES build, like ES build can output into a single file. And so what we needed is that because this code has 3 entry points, we needed the code to be bundled with just a single. And so ES build, I found like constantly wanted to give you a file that you included in something else. And to be honest, I probably played around with it for about 2 hours. The CLI functionality over December took most of my attention, but one of the community members did something with it, and it's pretty cool. Nice. Yeah, and then I think that's pretty much it. If you want to get hold of me, that's my email. Slack as well. I'm quite active on the Slack there. If you wanted to install it globally, that's the command. I would recommend like chat to me if you're going to do that. It's not fully documented. As I say, I finished it up last night. So there's a few things that might change, and I'm actively looking for people who want to play around with it and give me feedback. I have the first version of this that I did early Jan. I already had somebody in the community who was using it actively, but I'm really keen for some feedback on it. And then that's the repo for the project. the tool, and then the template that I put out. So if you're looking to start or do anything with card code, like I would say, use that template and then go from there. But yeah, that's me. I don't know if anyone has questions.
Any questions, guys? Feel free to put it into the chat. That's very cool, Devin. I think I just want to address a vicious rumor. I'm not a slave driver. Yeah, there were some because we had a demo that the guys had to pull out, and he said, Devin said, "Hey, I got this cool thing, but typical Dev, I just want to polish it up quick," and then yeah, so cool. But thank you very much, Devin. Very cool.
Good story, Nick. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So 12 hours ago, the tool wasn't even called IPB. So that's how much it's changed. Yeah.
It's quick version. Devin, very cool. We're definitely going to post this, the links in the chat if you guys want to take a look at it. Please, guys, we've been talking about whole open source the whole day, night. This is a great example of that. And if you want to get involved there, it's easy and it's in the community. So yeah. Thanks. Any questions, guys? Cool. We'll move along quick. I know time is running a little bit short. Just from community updates point of view. Any questions, guys? You guys good? All right. Cool. From a community updates point of view for this month, we have a financial wellness community sort of bounty thing that we do. So every quarter we have bounties. So we have hackathons and but for this time we also have some bounties that are happening. We'll paste the link in the chat also if you guys want to get involved. It's a very nice small little things around the API that you can build that's themed, and I'll give you swag for it. Very quick and simple. So there's something on there. Then we've got a very cool in real life sort of meetup that we're going to do in February. Still trying to figure out a name here. If you got a cool name that we can call this, like talk tables or something, but basically like a speed dating version of the APIs, Programmable banking card, the FinZap or spreadsheet banking, and the cool stuff that we're doing in Investec. So we'll have a little demo of things, and guys can come through quick, and we do a speed dating, have cool drinks, beer, pizza, and the whole thing. So if you're in Joburg at Investec on the 27th of February, please pull in. We would love to see you there. And but of course, I'm going to send out comms around that. And then, of course, our quarterly sort of champions program that we run. So the champions program is for our guys who want to help out at these hackathons, at these meetups, who want to get involved, who want to do some documentation, or just want to contribute a little bit more to the community and get a little more involved in the community. Or if you do something really cool and want to be a champion or recognized for it, please feel free to sign up for that. And again, we'll drop a link in that. So if you're a community member and part of that reward sort of thing, cool swag and exclusive swag. Plus, we tend to pay back the guys in reward points equivalent to 3 months of their banking fees for that previous quarter. So it pays to be a champion, which Peter Smith is very keen on. Yeah. So that's actually pretty cool. So that's what we're busy with for this quarter. There are going to be some changes that we're going to work on the meetups itself. And that's something that we'll talk about later on in this year. So we've been doing our monthly sort of meetups, and they've been very sort of formal and structured and demo. So we're going to change it up a little bit more, have a bit of fun around it, some feedback based on your guys sort of input into these meetups. We'll do more social. We'll do more cool things. We'll do more tinkering, we'll do more boarding, we'll do more learning around our APIs and management and everything else. And it's actually going to be pretty cool, but I'm not going to say too much about it, but I'll roll it out and I'll get you guys whole feedback as we go. But it's going to be cool, and I hope you guys will join us in this whole journey for this year. As for developer events, remember last year we were trying to connect up with a lot of you guys, and part of our sort of theme for that year was to go where you guys are. So not just say, hey, we having this thing and come through to us. It was more of like, let's go to you. Let's go to the conferences with you. Let's do things with you. Now for this year, because we would like to help you guys out a little bit more. We want to get more involved in the developer sort of community in South Africa. So if you're looking to do an event, if you have a meetup, I know a lot of you guys run your own sort of communities, from Rust to PHP to Dev South to all sorts of other sort of tech communities. If you want to have it at our space, please let me know. We can give swag, venue, spaces, and presentations, and we want to help and work with you guys to do really cool things. So we want to give around that. And we want to give back to the developer community who have done some really cool things this year. So if you have a community, if you want to do something with us, please get in contact with me. It's all part of the community sort of cool things that we do together. Okay. Does that sound cool? Sound interesting? But again, there's plenty more to come. Guys, we would really love your feedback on tonight's event. It's how we get better at it. It's how we do really cool things with you. Please feel free to scan this code. Again, we'll drop a link into the chat also around that one. But yeah, we'd love to get your feedback around this meetup. Because was it cool? Was it interesting? Did we have a good mix of things? How can we make it better? Because again, this is your meetup, and we love to do things with you. So yeah. Cool, guys. That's the end of our formal agenda, and we're ahead of time. Hey, how's that? It's actually pretty cool. Guys, so feel free to you can stick around, we can chat some more, but for the formal agenda, that's it. John, Devin, Wayne, thank you very much for your inputs, your feedback on stuff, and your stories. It was really cool, and your tools.
And thank you, John. Thank you. It's nice to see you.
Oh, and one more thing. Shan, as you know, has been around in the community for a while, for a very long time. She's also been helping us out very much in the last few weeks. She'll be going on maternity leave soon, and we wish her the best of luck, and we'll see her back soon as she comes back with a new little baby. It's going to be awesome. But Shan, two. Oh yeah, twins. Yeah. Dos. so yeah, but Jan, thank you very much for all your efforts so far and everything, and the love and heart that you've put into the community before and after this.
Thanks, Nick.
So thank you.
Yeah, it's been really fun, and yeah.
And we'll see you soon. So yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Cool. Guys, thank you very much. Have a great night. We love you all. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Yes.
Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Cheers.